Hansel and Gretel. Here's the thing about hunger nobody tells you. It's patient. It moves into a house the way a poor relation moves in, a little at a time. And then one day you understand it's never going to leave. That's how it was in the woodcutter's house at the edge of the forest the winter this happened. There were 4 of them, and almost nothing to eat, and hunger sat down at the table like it owned the chairs. The 2 children were Hansel and Gretel. You should learn their names now, because you're going to be with them a while, and because the woman who slept in the next room had already stopped using them. She was not their mother. That part matters. Their mother was years dead, and the woman their father married after was the kind who did arithmetic in the dark. One night the children woke to the sound of her doing it. Through the thin wall, they heard her voice, low and reasonable, which is the worst kind of voice. 2 mouths we can't feed, she said, or 4 graves come spring. Take them out past the deep part of the wood and leave them. The trees will see to the rest. And here's the part that should put a cold finger on the back of your neck more than any witch ever will. The father said no. Then he said no again. And then, before the candle had burned down to nothing, he said yes. This is how it goes with weak men. Not all at once, a little at a time, the same way the hunger came. Hansel lay still and listened, and his heart was going hard, but he did not cry. Gretel cried. He held her hand in the dark and felt her shaking and thought, with the strange clear calm that comes to children in terrible moments, that he would fix this. He was a boy, no more than 8 or 9, but he believed fixing it was a thing a boy could do. That first time, he almost did. He waited until the house breathed slow around him, and then he crept outside. And the moon was up and fat and white, and the little stones in the yard were lit like spilled silver. He filled both pockets, and in the morning, when their father walked them into the trees and could not look at either one of them, Hansel let the stones fall one at a time on the path behind him, and nobody saw. The parents built a fire. They tied a dead branch to a tree so the wind would knock it against the trunk, a dull, steady sound like a man still chopping wood, like a father still close, still working, still there. Then they went home and left the sound behind to do their lying for them. The children sat by the fire and listened to it until dark, and then the moon came up and lit the stones, and the stones brought them home. Their father wept. The stepmother said they were wicked to have stayed out so long, and shut the door, and the hunger sat back down at the table to wait. It didn't have to wait long. The second time she had thought it through. She locked the door, so there were no stones for Hansel to gather. So in the morning, when they put the last heel of bread in his hand, he did not eat it. He crumbled it as they walked, deeper than any children had ever been seen, and dropped it a little at a time behind them, and felt clever, and was wrong. He did not know about the birds. They waited by the fire all day. Night came, and when the moon came up and Hansel turned to find his little white trail home, there was nothing there. The birds had come down out of the branches the second their backs were turned and had eaten every crumb. Picture it. Picture the boy standing in the dark with his sister's hand in his, turning in a slow circle, the woods the same in every direction, and the cold understanding coming up through him like water filling a boot. Nobody was coming. Nobody had ever been coming. They had never once been wanted. They walked for 3 days. They ate a few sour berries off the ground and nothing else. The hunger made them light and strange, the way it does, and the woods let them go deeper and kept them. On the 3rd day, a white bird came and sang, and they followed it because they had nothing else to follow, and it brought them out into a clearing, and in the clearing stood a house. You know this house. You've known it your whole life. The walls were bread, and the roof was cake, and the windows were clear sugar that held the light like ice. And to two children who had been dying by inches for 3 days, it did not look like a trap. It never does. That's the whole point of it. It looked like God had remembered them after all. They fell on it, and a voice came drifting out of the sweet house, soft and kindly, the voice of somebody's grandmother. "Nibble, nibble, little mouse, who is nibbling at my house?" And the children called back with their mouths full, the only thing starving children could, "Only the wind." And they kept eating. The door opened. Out came an old woman on 2 crutches. Her eyes were red and weak and wet, and she smiled and called them her poor lambs and took them inside by the hand. She fed them milk and pancakes and apples. She put them in 2 soft beds with clean sheets, and the children, who had been left in the woods to die not once but twice, lay down in the warm and thought, finally, they were safe. The old woman sat in the dark and watched them sleep and counted the meat on their bones. I'll tell you what she was, though I'm sure you've already guessed. She was a witch, and she had built the whole sweet house the way another woman might bait a hook to bring the hungry close. Her eyes were nearly gone, but her nose was not. And she had smelled the 2 of them coming a full day off. Fresh ones. She lay there in the dark thinking it the way you think about a meal you have been promised. They would not get away from her this time. In the morning she took Hansel up in one cold hand and shut him in a stall behind a barred gate, the way you pen an animal you mean to eat. She woke Gretel with a slap and put her to the stove. "Cook for your brother," she said. "Fatten him up, and when he is plump enough, we will see about a feast." So Gretel cooked and cried and ate what was left for her, which was crab shells and not much else. Every single morning the old woman came shuffling to the bars. "Hold out your finger, boy," she would say. "Let me feel how you are coming along." And every morning Hansel, who was cleverer than a starving boy has any right to be, held out a little bone he had found in the straw instead, and her dim eyes could not tell the difference. And it drove her half wild that the child would not fatten. 4 weeks of it. Then her patience ran out the way a kettle boils over. "Fat or thin," she said, "tomorrow I cook him." She built the fire high and made Gretel heat the great oven until the flames stood up inside it. Then she turned sweet again, sweet as the house. "Be a good girl," she said. "Climb in and tell me if it is hot enough for the bread." But Gretel had been watching her for a month. Gretel knew there was no bread. "I don't know how," she said. "Show me." And the old woman, hungry, impatient, sure of herself right up to the very last second of her life, leaned in and put her own head into the mouth of the oven. Gretel set both hands flat on her back and pushed. Then she slammed the iron door and threw the bolt. I'm not going to tell you the sound that came out of that oven. I'll only tell you that it did not last as long as you would think, and that Gretel did not put her hands over her ears. She stood in the firelight and listened to all of it, and when it was over, she was not quite a little girl anymore. Not all the way. She let her brother out, and they held on to each other and shook. The house was theirs now. In the chests along the walls they found pearls and jewels, worth more than stones, worth more than bread, and they filled their pockets and Gretel's apron and ran. A wide stretch of water stopped them at the edge of the wood, with no bridge across it, and a white duck carried them over, one, then the other, because Gretel would not let it take them both at once. And then the trees began to look like trees they knew, and there was the house. Their father wept to see them. He had not had one easy hour, he said, since the day he let her talk him into it. And the stepmother? Well, the stepmother was dead. He did not say how. The story does not say how. She was simply gone, as if the woods, promised 2 children and cheated of them, had come up quietly to the house one night to collect the debt. They poured the jewels out on the floor, and they were never hungry again. And the forest? The forest did not mind. It had never felt a thing for them, one way or the other. It just stood there, patient, full of dark, and waited to be given something else.